The resistance comes from within. And that resistance is a lot thicker and harder to work through because you already have a lack of motivation, a lack of purpose, a lack of love for yourself. And it's like wearing sunglasses and it tints all the good stuff in your life. It's hard to really see all the many great things that are happening around you because it's like your heart is muted, your conscience is muted. All the good attributes of yourself are muted when you're in a self-loathing state. So that's like resistance within creates resistance just perpetually. Whereas if you live the high noon life and you're very intentional, you get good at playing the game of creating a North Star goal, creating the life one day at a time that represents the best of you, you're also going to receive resistance from life. Welcome back to Love and Life and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hypersexualized times. So, everybody, have you ever had one of those days where you just feel like life is so hard? It's like it's hard to get out of bed, or it's hard to just do regular tasks, whether it's go to school, whether it's to be with your family, if it's to go to your work, if it's just to function. It's like it's a sludge. It's a sludge fest. It's difficult. This difficulty is resistance, and this resistance is there internally. Right? And that's what this episode is. Most of us are swimming upstream most of the time. We spend so much energy, but we feel like we're not getting anywhere. And it's because of internal resistance. And High Noon has specifically been designed to help you understand what that resistance is and how to remove it so that you can feel like you're swimming downstream and life is flowing. And there is nothing better than that. Sexuality is a massive part of how you feel about yourself and how you see the world around you. So we're going to get into that in this episode, but largely it's the high noon life is letting life flow naturally and just removing all the resistance. And we will help you regardless of where you're at in your journey. So let's unpack this together like a giant suitcase filled with toys. Enjoy, everybody. Hey everybody, this is my 1 trillionth time recording this episode. It was never good enough, not until now. This is going to be the best one. Yesterday I had so many technical difficulties, and then finally I recorded a version that I was not happy with because I don't know if you've ever done this, but when you record something multiple times, it's like you forget which portions you've already recorded or not. And so you do this hodgepodge that it's not the best of usually. So today I just wanted to start from scratch. It's a whole new day. And I really wanted to talk about this topic, but I wanted to cover it sufficiently. Yesterday I feel like it was a little bit too esoteric. So let me get into it with you. I wanted to talk about swimming upstream and how we are all... There's two angles that I want to approach with you. And let's unpack this. Let's have fun, people. Stop being so serious. Gee willikers. Swimming upstream is, I remember one slide from a talk that I wrote years ago. And it was just like a thing that I said, that we're all swimming upstream. And then I had some biblical quotes. But the first point that I want to address is that culturally speaking, if you've chosen the righteous path, if you've chosen sexual integrity, you are in the minority. Most people are resigned to just a life of justification. They think that, well, this is what everybody does. I've even seen clips from different podcasts, and especially with comedians. Somebody suggests that they don't watch porn, and then they get attacked like crazy. First of all, nobody even believes that that's possible because their standards are so low. And secondly, even if the people are convinced that they live that way, they make fun of them. It's really strange. It's the same as drinking. In society, if somebody walks up to you, or you're at a function, some sort of function with people, you're at a social event, and people never go up to you and say, "Hey man, you want some methamphetamines? You want some opioids?" Right? "Hey man, you want to go to the I don't know, buffet and get some chicken and then we can do some opioids?" Because they would be considered crazy, right? Yet drinking is just, widely expressed as a social lubricant, and everybody does it. And if you don't do it, then you're a freak of nature, right? Same thing with porn. It's really bizarre that it's considered, in the past, it was considered kind of like a shameful activity. And you would know this because there were no, family-friendly porn shops, right? Back in the day, if you ever saw like an adult shop, it was so suspicious. There were a lot of curtains, so you couldn't see like who was in there, who's coming in and coming out. It was usually in some shady part of town, right? It wasn't like, downtown next to the Disney shop. It was next to Lou's basement sandwiches, like places you would never go, right? So, but now it's like, it's so socially accepted, not because it's proven itself to be helpful, because science has proven that pornography is fantastic for you. It's because society's standards have eroded so much to the point where we can't even, they're like, people are just pulling each other down like crabs in a bucket, right? So if you are strong enough to know who you want to be, society doesn't support that. If who you choose to be is a righteous person, a God-loving person, a kind person, a clear person, and especially in the realm of sexuality, somebody who is striving for sexual integrity. There's very little media that supports you. In fact, all media pulls you in the opposite direction. If you look at the trajectory, I saw a study of like the clear and planned out like factory that young ladies go through when they're either in Disney, but especially when they're in the music industry. They all start out innocent. You think of Britney Spears back in the day, or you think of Taylor Swift now. There's a certain amount of albums that they need to put out where they progressively get more and more aggressively sexual until they're basically just whores. And I say this not from a place of judgment, but because they're literally selling their sexuality for money, right? Whereas they started out being musicians, they just eventually stop wearing clothes. And then you're not watching the music video because of how great the music is. It's because they are desperately showing every bits and piece that they're legally allowed to in order to sell their albums, right? That's a sense of whoring. And this is not, I don't know. I don't want this. I feel like I'm going to receive ire from some people who don't like to hear that, but it's just, there's actually like a formula to this. It's never the inverse where somebody starts out very sexual and then, like as a musician, if you can imagine Britney Spears, she starts out with that song Toxic, which is all about like, it's a song about her and how toxic she is. And that's a hit song about a young lady talking about how messed up she is. And people are like, I love that song. I listen to it all the time in the car on the way to school when I'm taking the kids to school. We just love it. We just love, going to school, having ice cream, listening to Toxic, a young lady just falling apart, right? And then, of course, when she has a mental breakdown in her actual life, people are like, I wonder how that happened, right? So again, I don't want this to come across as judging specific people, but the music industry has a formula where they take very young, innocent ladies and then they turn them into sex objects progressively until they're actual, literal, that's so hard. Let's just say prostitutes. Seems like a easier word to say, okay? So that's one thing is social media and media at large is not here to support your endeavors to build sexual integrity, to build your relationship with yourself or with Heavenly Parent God. In fact, it's completely the opposite. Okay, so there's that. So we're swimming upstream. Those of you who seek clarity in your mind, the last place that you will find clarity is online. Okay. Before it was High Noon, this organization, we used to be called Pure Mind Online. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you've heard these stories before, but it all came crashing down. That name, that title came crashing down. The moment we got some texts from some of our, the people who are consuming our content, they're like, do you mean to have this name, like these initials? And we're like, what are you talking about? They're like, your initials are PMO. And we're like, yeah, what does that mean? We didn't know. It was so funny. That's like how disconnected we were. We didn't know that PMO was code for porn masturbation orgasm, which is so ironic. So poetically ironic. So it's funny that, I mean, I bring up Pure Mind Online because online is the last place you want to go if you want to have a pure mind or pure heart, sense of purity in general. Feeling like a hopeful, optimistic person, right? So culturally, we are not supported. And religion used to be very clear, there were clear standards, and now those are eroding very rapidly. And figuring out what's right or wrong is even hard to get from a lot of people's faith. The Christian church is very divided in terms of sexuality. It's quite a quagmire, as they say.
Hey, just a quick intermission to let you know that High Noon has a program just for single people that want to prepare well for marriage. So if you happen to be one of those single people that wants to be a stellar, fantastic, amazing, marriageable man or woman, then check out the core program, which you can find at highnoon.org. It is just for single folks like you who want to get ready for marriage and be ready for marriage. So join that at highnoon.org, and we will see you in the core program.
So that's the first half of this conversation that I wanted to talk about, wanted to address, was culturally speaking, we are swimming upstream, absolutely. And you need to prepare for that. You need to surround yourself by curating the content that goes into your senses to make sure that the content helps you to feel more powerful, because then it feels like there's less resistance in your life. You feel like you're making the right life choices, and you get validated, rather than being scorned for being a good person, for being an intentional person, right? So there's a concept in the divine principle, there's 4 fallen natures, and the last one is like the multiplication of sin is used in the principle. But if you think about it in terms of like, when somebody's really struggling, they're mired in hatred or resentment. When they're really steeped in the feeling of hatred and resentment, a deep self-loathing, people typically in that state will want to spread that hate, spread that resentment by projecting it onto others, right? So you need to be very careful who you hang out with, and the things that are coming into your senses and the conversations that you're exposing yourself to or participating in. And when you start to live more intentionally in that way, what you do, but also what you expose yourself to, it will lessen the feeling of swimming upstream, okay? Because naturally speaking, if you just wander into the internet and you say, I'm just going to go for a walk around here in Facebook and wind up in Instagram and go to Reddit a little bit, you're going to come out the other end beat up. You're going to be bruised, and you're going to be feeling pretty pessimistic about life. You're going to feel like you're not enough. You're going to feel like everybody else is cooler and better looking and richer, and they have it all figured out, and you suck. That's the specific design of marketing and media, is to make you feel like you're not enough so that you buy this product. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is marketing 101. You say, yes, wouldn't you like to be happier? Well, you would be happier if you buy this thing. Or, have you ever felt like a loser? Well, you should consider purchasing this product, right? And now in the era when it's less corporations selling stuff, and it's more like one-to-one through influencers, they always have a course, and you can watch every single video that you see that's like a webinar or like an ad on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. It'll always be like, I know you've tried everything. And then they'll convince you that their thing is the one that's better than all the rest of the things, right? And so what they're doing is they're saying, you're not happy, and I will give you happiness. And this is what brings me to my second point. So culturally, we are swimming upstream, okay? But the second half of this conversation that I really want you to understand is, when you create your own momentum, you start feeling like you're going downstream, and life flows way more easily, but only when you're very careful about how you spend your time and energy and what you invest in, okay? I want to give you some very clear examples. If you wake up and the first thing that you do is you check your phone, your day is going to feel like you're swimming upstream. It's going to be like you're walking through very thick, deep mud. Just the worst. So much, work to feel like you're going nowhere. That's out of the gates. Do not just turn on your phone and be led wherever social media wants to take you. That is the worst way to start your day. But think about it. If the first meal of your day is a donut, and that was me, oh my God, back in high school, nobody's really taking care of me at that point. I started cooking for myself, like lunch for sure, when I was in 6th grade. But then I started making all 3 meals for myself, like in high school when I was a freshman. Maybe sometimes dinner would be cooked for me, but for sure breakfast and lunch was on me. And that was the era when I found this donut shop close on the way to school, and they had day-old donuts. So they would sell the nasty, crusty old donuts that were made the day prior for a quarter, a shiny quarter. I don't know what the prices would be now. This is back in 1903 when I was in high school, okay? And I remember every morning rushing out of the house, right? Because I was always late for school. I was not a great student. But before rushing out, I'd search the couch, under the cushions and everything I just needed to find maybe 5 nickels, maybe 2 dimes and a nickel. If I could find 25 pennies, I'd show up with that, and they hated that, right? And I was kind of their best customer, but I was their worst customer because I was consistent, but I was always just giving them change that had lint on it, And so that is the worst way to start your day, with a donut. I mean, they've proven it now. Like when you start your day with a sugary treat, then your sugar glucose is just all over the place for the rest of the day. That means your focus is all off. It's not healthy for you. So out of the gates, the things that you're doing, you're setting yourself up for a day where it feels like life is flowing, or a day where there's a lot of resistance. Resistance is inevitable in life, whether you are doing meaningless stuff or whether you're doing very meaningful stuff. Eventually you'll run into resistance, right? But there's a very big difference. If you're leading a life where you're like not intentional, right? So you're just watching whatever. Let's say you start your day watching porn. Then you're starting your day with regret. That is like the worst thing. When you live a very unintentional life, let's just put it this way, the resistance comes from within. And that resistance is a lot thicker and harder to work through because you already have a lack of motivation, a lack of purpose, a lack of love for yourself. And it's like wearing sunglasses, and it tints all the good stuff in your life. It's hard to really see all the many great things that are happening around you because it's like your heart is muted, your conscience is muted. All the good attributes of yourself are muted when you're in a self-loathing state. So that's like resistance within creates resistance just perpetually, right? Whereas if you live the high noon life and you're very intentional, you get good at playing the game of creating a North Star goal, creating the life one day at a time that represents the best of you, you're also going to receive resistance from life. You're going to reach a point where your knowledge is tapped out and you have to upgrade your learning, right? If you're trying to do school, or if you're on the job, or if you're creating a business, all of your limitations start to show up, and that's a form of resistance, right? Externally. But if internally you're taking care of yourself, then you welcome the challenge because you see it as growth. Somebody who's stuck internally, all resistance is just a pain in the butt. It's just another thing to overcome. We were reading this book. There's a kid's book. It's called like Lucky Ducky or something. Unlucky Ducky. I forget. We got it. We went to the library, got a bunch of books because we were in Asia where there were not so many libraries, especially with English books. And anyway, we got Lucky Ducky. Great book. Or Unlucky Duck. It doesn't even matter. You're not going to go to the library and get it. But it's so funny because this duck, it's a story about this duck that she perceives everything as being unlucky. She runs out of pickles. She goes to the fridge and she's like, oh, just my bad luck. I don't have any more pickles, right? And then she, like her ladder was broken. She's like, oh, I have such bad luck. So everything in her mind was like because of her bad luck. This is somebody, in her case, a duck. So not a somebody, a something, I guess, that sees the world through internal resistance. Like everything is tough. It's a funny book because, spoiler alert, for all of you who are going to race out and go get the book, the funny part is that her bad luck turned into be great luck because there's a wolf that kept on being like, it's your lucky day. You just won a pot. You just won some celery. And he kept on giving all these ingredients to make soup because he was going to say, it's my lucky day because I'm going to eat you. And then he's going to try to eat this duck. But then he ends up tripping on the ladder. His head gets stuck in the pickle jar and he falls out of the house and his life falls apart. And then all of her bad luck turned out to be good luck, right? But the main point is that when you're not taking care of yourself internally, then everything is like, oh, it's because I'm terrible, or God doesn't love me, or I'm so unlucky. And you have all these people that are walking around. They have eyes, they have arms and legs. They have a heart that works. They can breathe, they can do anything, and they feel unlucky. They live in a place, if you're listening to this or watching this, you have electricity, you have Wi-Fi, you have endless possibilities of things that you can do with your time and energy, and you still feel unlucky. That's internal resistance, okay? So it really starts by, the first half of this conversation is society. If you just get led by social media, if you end up watching porn and all this, you are absolutely adding resistance within you, and life will feel like you're swimming upstream and every day will be difficult, okay? But if you start living in the high noon, you start creating North Star goals, and you start exercising the 5 virtues: honesty, accountability, grace, integrity, courage. You start building those muscles every day, life starts to flow and it starts to support you. And when you start feeling like you're swimming downstream, it's like good luck befalls you. You just like fall face first into all these good things. And even when, some possibly perceivable as like things that could be perceived as bad happen to you, you see the value in them because life is flowing and nothing can stop you. And that is a very dangerous person. That is a very powerful person in this world. And that's what we want you to all experience. But there's a latency between swimming upstream and swimming downstream, is inculcating a new way of thinking and being. And that is the high noon way. And so we have 3 programs, right? We have Core, which is to help you to remove the resistance from marriage so that you become a marriageable person and have a great experience in the matching and preparation for marriage so that you can have a great marriage. It's so cool, right? Other than most people are swimming upstream when it comes to preparing for marriage. Everything's so hard. I don't know who to decide. I don't know. Everything's like this esoteric crisis. In Ascend, obviously the resistance is porn and masturbation. They're blocking you. They're adding so much internal resistance. They make your life so tough. So Ascend helps you to replace those bad habits with healthy habits that helps life to flow again. And then with our program Radiant, there's always resistance. And it can feel like swimming upstream in your own marriage, in your blessing. And that's a terrible feeling because it's like, I try so hard and yet I'm not happy in my own marriage. You start to remove that resistance and things start flowing. Love starts flowing. The relationship feels like it's working again. It's the best. So please understand that society will always make it difficult in our present state because we live in a broken world. When we start to be healed people, we will start to create Channel Guk. And then society will help us actually to be our ideal selves. Right now, society is the main hindrance from us becoming our ideal selves. So we have to take it upon ourselves to remove this internal resistance and to replace it with a state of flowing, day by day, getting better at waking up and living through your mornings and living through your middays and living through your evenings, constructing days so that they're optimized for what? for your ideal self. So you can do this. You can absolutely do this. And that's what High Noon's here for, if you weren't clear on that. I hope this episode was helpful. I want you to experience a life of swimming downstream because it's amazing. Again, there's still resistance. There's still rocks in this analogy. There's still sticks. Some jerk rodent created a dam that's blocking, but you can blast through even those things when you have sufficient momentum in your life. You can get through anything. So anyway, reach out to us if you need any help. We have programs specifically designed to remove this resistance so that you can experience life as it's intended to flow.
Hey there, it is Benji here. I want to ask for your attention for just a second. We are asking y'all who have been benefiting from the podcast for just one small favor. We don't ask for much. In fact, we actually try very hard not to ask much. But if you have benefited from this content in the podcast, then I want to encourage y'all to consider becoming a donor for High Noon. Yes, we are still a nonprofit and we rely on your donations to function. And if you would like to just donate $10 a month, if you are looking for a way to contribute your cash to something really meaningful, then I hope that High Noon can be that thing for you. So you can go to highnoon.org/donate. You can click in a link somewhere down below this episode and become a donor for just $10 a month or $20 or $100 or $1,000, whatever it is, guys. It is truly helpful. All right. So go check that out if you have benefited from this podcast in any way over the years. Lots of love.